looking ahead to year 2 of S2, what did you learn from year 1 that maybe you'll be implementing this year?
Well, I think just managing the players, as far as players who are coming down from the first team and guys who are coming up from the academy, just making sure that everyone is on the right page, the same page, and we have a unified plan going in to each game. We went through, I think, 44 players last year. We're hoping that it's not as many this year. We're going to try to have a little bit more consistency, because I think with a little bit more consistency we could better develop players, and that's what S2 is really all about, is making sure that we're developing guys and getting guys ready for first team action.
What was the biggest takeaway that stands out to you from year 1 as a head coach and just sort of the program here?
Well, I think it has to do with week in and week out not really knowing what your starting 11 is going to be or what players are going to be available. I think it's a unique situation. I love the position. I love helping the club grow by working with the younger players in the club. But it's as a coach going into a game maybe a day before or 2 days before, you find out that a first team player might need some game minutes, or maybe the academy is off and you need to get some of those guys some game minutes. So you don't really have a set team week in and week out, but we're going to try to make sure we're on the same page going into games a little sooner than we did last year. Sometimes it was the day before, but I think we've made a conscious effort talking about it over the off season that maybe 2-3 days before we'll have a better idea of what players are going to be available, what players from the first team are going to need games, so it's not so much of a last-minute change as it was in different cases, different occasions last year.
Sure.
And we're hearing that y'all are mimicking the first team and going to the 4-3-3 this season. Is that? That's just part of the emphasis that you guys are developing players to step in at a moment's notice if necessary?
Well, yes, because I think if we're playing a 4-4-2 and the first team is playing a 4-3-3, it's kind of difficult. If a guy you haven't played, maybe let's say a right mid and a 4-4-2, he now gets called up to the first team and he has to play maybe a wide flank. It's a different role. It's a different beast all in itself. So I think it's best for us if we are mimicking whatever the first team is doing. That way, we could. It's just an easier slide, because at the end of the day, the goal of S2 players is to get to the first team, and I think that helps them be better prepared in advance for when they do step into those roles. So, for instance, an Alex Anderson, even though he's signed with the first team, guys like that are going to get some S2 minutes, and if he's playing a left wing on the first team, when he comes down to play games with us, we want to put him in a similar role, so it's not such a switch back and forth as far as what he has to do tactically, so that he's learning, he's developing his tactical roles in the same position at S2 as he does with the first team.
As you sort of alluded to, a decent amount of turnover within the roster. Who are a couple guys that fans coming out to watch you guys play might be surprised by, or a couple expected standouts?
Well, I think we have some academy kids that are going to get some playing time this year. We've signed one of our draftees, 3 of our draftees, but a couple of them, Mathers, Nelson's hurt right now, Michael Nelson, but we have Emir also. I think these guys are gonna show well. We have can't give out all our secrets leading up to the game, but we have some new players in. It was a big turnover from last year. I think we only kept 3 or 4 signed guys from last year, so. It'll be some new guys out there for the fans to see, and we think we've brought in some good players, and we're going to continue from what we started last year and build on that. It's with S2, it's not so much about winning. We do want to win because we feel that winning is part of a player's development, and it helps them develop as far as psychologically, attitude. If you're getting beat 5-0 every game, it's kind of discouraging, but so we are going to try to win games, but the main focus is to develop these players, So, for instance, last year we were able to get Craven and Alex Anderson signed with the first team. That's the goal of S2. Every year, can we get 1, maybe 2 players who makes the jump from S2 to the first team? And I think we have some good young players that we've brought in, some coming up from the academy, like I said earlier, that are going to be able to make that jump. If not this year, maybe next year even.
Saw the signing of Myron Samuel, I guess on a statistical basis is the greatest goal scorer in the history of soccer. What can you realistically expect from him?
Well, I mean, Myron, like you said, he played that 45 minutes for us, had 2 goals and assists, so that's really good. But he's a good player, and one of the reasons for us signing an extension with him, even though it's not with the first team, we see him as a player that's going to be on the first team sooner rather than later. So we wanted to make sure that he stays with us, and we continue to grow him as a player, develop him into that role. He's a very good soccer player. You could tell from just the 45 minutes that he played with us last year. He's a guy that, even though he's 22, 23, he's played 46 times for his national team. He's played in Champions League matches. So he's a young guy with a lot of experience, and a lot like Olex is. Even though Olex is only 20 years old and just turned 20 in November, these guys have played in big games, and so stepping onto CenturyLink Field in front of 40,000 doesn't really faze them. It's they've played, maybe not in front that big of a crowd, but in big games like that before. So Myron is someone that we felt that we need to make sure that we keep on to and keep developing, and look forward to great things from him this year with S2, and hopefully by mid-season moving on to the first team. But that all depends on performance. We don't want potential guys. We want guys who use those potential, and that's what we're here for as coaches, to help develop that potential and making these players really achieve their full potential.
Keeping him around, and with Olex moving up, kind of establishing his St. Vincent in the Grenadines pipeline here. Is it kind of cool to you to sort of allow these guys to come in and be a little bit of a facilitator with your background?
Well, yeah. I mean, every time I can help someone from my country, or any young player, be it from my country or another country, I'm willing to do that. Obviously, being from St. Vincent, I'm going to look there first because it's just naturally what you do. There are some more guys in the pipeline that I'm thinking about. I just got to convince management that 5 Vincentians on the team is a worthwhile investment. But no, you have to be a good player. We have to see that potential, and you have to want it as a player. So just because I'm a coach from St. Vincent, it doesn't mean every Vincentian is going to get the opportunity to play with S2. You have to, have what it takes, because at the end of the day, it's not just a Sunday league. It's a professional organization, and we're looking for players that we think can better the organization, become good players for the organization, and keep Sounders organization at a high level. That's the main goal. So yes, I'll keep looking there, and hopefully they give me the opportunity to sign a couple more players by mid-season this year.
Sure.
So the player development around the world is very important in every soccer organization. What is the systems that you guys have in place to help the younger team players in the academy to come to the S2 and then jump to the first team?
Well, I think no matter where you are in the world, one of the main things in the player's development is game time, playing in games. And we are offering, like we played on Wednesday in Vancouver, and we had 8 academy players that played with us. So we're giving these guys the opportunity to play in games so that they can gain experience. And beyond that is just having the right people, coaches in technical and tactical sessions and in training sessions to help develop those players individually. But at the end of the day, getting them into game situations, getting them into matches in front of crowd, or no matter how big a crowd is, how small a crowd is, I think getting players into those game situations is a big part of development. That's one of the things that we're going to try to stress this year. We've gotten rid of some of the older players that we had last year, and we're going to use a lot of the academy kids in games this year, because like I said, it's not so much about winning games. The main thing is developing these players, and like I said, one of the big part of their development is putting them in games, so they have game situations. So when they develop as a player and they go to the first team, it's not new to them. Being in games and making the right decisions in game situations is something that they're accustomed to and that they're used to.
You guys have Sacramento Republic in 7 days, so he's a top team in USL. How are you feeling about it?
Well, I think we've one of the things I told the guys at the beginning of the preseason on February 23rd is I'm not so much worried about winning games in preseason, but as long as we're getting better as a team, and we started off with it was a lot of trialists. We're down to almost where we have the S2 team now with the academy and the guys that we've signed to the full S2 contracts, and it's just getting better every game. So I think we're ready. I think the past 3 or 4 weeks we've made the progress that we needed to be ready for a match. I mean, the guys are anxious. They're ready to play. We have one more rehearsal game, so to speak, tomorrow versus Gonzaga. And I think after that, we'll make our final cuts, and then we'll have the team to prepare next week for Sacramento. Sacramento is always going to be a tough opponent for us. They're a very good team. They're a team that's been around for a while. They just won the league, 2 seasons ago. So we expect a very good game. But we're at home. We like to play at home. We showed that last year that we're a very hard team to beat at home. They came in as defending champions last year, and we were able to get 3 points. So we're looking forward to the same thing, but it's going to be a good match. We're not taking anyone for granted, but it's just I'm very excited about the opportunity to showcase some of the young talents that we've brought into the squad, some of the up-and-coming academy kids that we have on S2's roster now. So it's going to be a very interesting game, very exciting game. I think the fans are going to have fun.